Hi, I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, host of Finance is Personal. Welcome back to our special part 2 of Romance Scams, and I'm here with my two special guests, Shelley Frost and Linda Young, and they are the writers of an incredible book called For King the Con, How an Online Love Affair Led to Near Disaster. And this is a must read for everyone. It's on Amazon, so go out and get your copy because they really talk about exactly what they went through. And there's these in-depth conversations that they have with each other in the book. And I think it's really important if you are going through something like this book is a really good library to tune into. So Linda, I'm going to go back and ask you a question. And my question to you is, what can you tell victims or someone who's entangled in this web of insanity?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest piece of advice that I could say is that before you even sign on to one of these dating websites is to educate yourself about what could happen, the scams. I'd heard about it. I know we've all heard that people get scammed, but I didn't know all the nuances. I didn't know about the grooming. I didn't know how sophisticated they are. I didn't know that they actually can get to the point where you can be brainwashed. There's also signs. I mean, there's red flags all over the place. Yes, the fact that they don't ask to meet you in person. They ask you to send them an item or money. They're always traveling. Oh, I'm not in town right now. I'm in Europe. I'm going to be here for a while. So let's just talk online or emailing or text, so that when I get back, we're going to meet. It's going to be the most wonderful. They just, pour it on. Now that I have been through this experience, I still believe in love, and I still want to meet my forever person. And
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I put that in the book too. I said, to everyone who believes in love, continue to have love. Don't let an experience like this jade you, make you cynical, make you feel so shamed that you don't want to continue your life. You have to recover from it. You have to find your resiliency. You have to give yourself self-compassion and self-love. And if you don't know how to do that, for me, I did a lot of reading, and I put my resources in the book too, as to what helped me be able to not fall into the hole of humiliation, self-loathing, negative talking, I deserve this, all the horrible things that we can say to ourselves. That being said, I would recommend man, woman, no matter who it is, do your research, find out, Social Catfish is a good website. And obviously listening to us speaking here today and using the book, find out what it looks like so that you're aware of whether or not it's happening to you. Also, depending on where you live, that's another key part of it, is what I've learned, because I am a professional woman living in Silicon Valley, and everybody in the world knows Silicon Valley. They know Google, they know Apple. All the big guns are here, and they know that this is where money is. So that also is important. I had mentioned a little bit earlier, my advice would be to go less on your profile, less information. You can share all that with somebody that you've met face to face, that you feel that you want to continue, meeting and talking to. Don't put it on your profile on a website, because that's what they're searching for. They're searching for professional women that have degrees, because that usually means that they have money.
Linda, it's really funny because when I started dating my husband, I introduced him to my parents, and my mother kept asking me questions about him. And she said, I just don't trust him. I don't, because she has seen so many stories on romance scams, and she's seen so many women go through so much hardship with different relationships, that, in the very beginning, she was just like, no, it's just too good to be true. It's not right. There's nothing right about this.
Yeah.
I proved her wrong, but that's okay now, right? But she was on guard from the beginning.
And you know what that feeling is, Liz, that, your family's saying, no, no, no. And you're saying, well, yes, yes, yes. And just wait, you're going to love him as much as I love him. Yeah. So just wait, you're going to meet him. Of course, you obviously being in person is completely different story.
But even still, there are a
No,
lot of people that meet somebody and start
yeah,
dating them, and they're not exactly who they should be.
yes, that is very true. I know I not I think part of what happened to me too is that I have friends and work colleagues that have met their true loves online
Mhm.
and have ended up being married and just saying, wow, I never would have met this wonderful person if it hadn't been for online dating. So that was also my other kind of motivator. Like, no, my other friends, they're smart professional women. They met their guys and they're all happily married and everything. So yes, that can happen to me too.
And it's true, it can, because I too have a lot of friends that have met their spouses online dating, and there are wonderful people out there that
There,
need the opportunity to meet online where they can't meet in person. So the system does work, but you really,
yes,
really need to be on high alert. And Shelley, not having a background in investigative report or investigating work at all, no training in it. And here you were, full on, boots on the ground, doing everything you could to help your sister.
Yes, and the private investigator, the first one that I hired, happened to be a neighbor of mine.
Mhm.
And so he was able to give me advice too, beyond just what he was digging up and the reports he was sending me. So that was helpful because he was giving me the inside track on some things I should look for, some things I could, be aware of. So that was helpful. And you need resources to hire a private investigator. I know that not everybody can do that, but some of the other things that I would recommend people do is just go to Google, search those social media pages, look for this person, do a reverse image search. That's something that socialcatfish.com can help with. They have,
Interesting.
yes, where if you have some of the photos of the guy or the woman,
Mhm.
there's a way to drop them into a certain search page and it'll come up, it'll show who this person really is. In our case, we just hit dead end, brick wall after dead end.
Yeah.
We would do reverse image searches on the photos Linda had sent us, and they would all just come back nothing. There was no information. So, but I guess my other message would be don't give up, persevere. If you really believe that your loved one is in danger, you can't stop. And the main, we talk about them meeting in person. In Linda's case, I knew that he was a fraud because he was never available to come meet her in person, never available to look at her on a computer screen.
Mhm.
So those are major things to be watchful of. If you do believe your loved one is truly being scammed, you might even have evidence of it, go to your police department.
Yes.
Myself and Linda's ex or her sister-in-law, Nancy, who is one person on our squad, she and I went to the FBI in Roseville, California. They have a walk-in. So we walked in with all of our evidence, we had piles and reports. And so we met with an agent through a glass wall. This was before COVID,
Yeah.
but sure enough, it was all very, very cautious on their part. We wanted him to take our information, to take our evidence and get on an airplane and go to Nigeria and confront this guy in his internet cafe and arrest him. That's what we wanted. Instead, he told us, yeah, this is a compelling case. This is terrible. This happens all the time. Your sister is being scammed, but you need to go to your local police department. So that, I would say, skip the FBI, go to your police department to get action immediately. By that time, though, within days, we had found the Instagram account and we confronted Linda. So we managed to end it on our
Local
own.
police departments do have a fraud section, and they do have women that work in those units as well. So it's easier to go and describe what you've been through to a female police officer at times. But the other thing too, Shelley, kudos to you, because you were so invested in this, and you were so invested in saving Linda that, the lights came on and you thought, logo. I see this guy wearing a logo t-shirt, and that's what led you to the end, I guess.
The end, yes. That was the night I was going to give up. And then we discovered that. Come to find out the next day, Linda did mention to you previous that she was ready to give him the final bit of money she had.
Yeah.
He also had, Linda, I'll just lay it out there since we're here. But was also taking out a loan on her house, which we found out about by hacking into her email, because she was going to send him more money from a second mortgage or whatever on her house. So that was about to happen the next day if we hadn't confronted her. So really, it was in the nick of time, and because we didn't give up. But boy, it was close, because I knew she just was done with me.
And that's why communication in every relationship is so important. One of the key things that they find with couples is that they don't talk about their finances. And I mean, you really need to understand each other's finances. How much debt does someone have? How much, what do they own? Where do they owe? And a lot of couples don't even talk about their finances when they're married. This is something that's really important that we all have to discuss. And again, I'm going to say there's no shame in this at all. We all need help. And we all surround ourselves with really good friends and family so that they're there for us when we can't be there for ourselves. And I think communication is really, really important, especially right now. Linda, I'm going to, there's something that I wrote here. A scammer is like an abstract piece and your brain fills in the blanks. I was reading all of the things that he professed to you, and I'm going to read them out loud. You are my beginning and my end. You are my joy and treasure. Linda, you are what I live for. You are my world. My life revolves around you. And it just goes on and on and on. If you're not in that, you're reading it thinking, oh, wow, who does that? Who says that? But when you're embedded in this, your brain must just fill in the blanks, and it feels normal and it feels wonderful and fulfilling. And on the flip side, you had to keep assuring him that you're an honest person. So here he is bombarding you with all this crazy phrases. And you had to sit there and say, I'm an honest person, because you felt that he wasn't, or I'm not quite sure why, but the irony is unbelievable.
Well, definitely, but how wonderful. It's better than turning on the TV, to be, stroked with all of this language that was just so, takes you right back to being a little girl, Cinderella or whatever, your knight in shining armor. I think also one of the, you were mentioning about talking about finances, Liz, and having that communication. And, I came upon something a while ago too, that kind of explained like everything that you should know as you go into adulthood, let's just say. And financial literacy was part of that pie. Let's just say, call it a pie, financial literacy, health, literacy, and on and on. And I don't think we get enough of that, unless we just take it upon ourselves to do our own research. So I just want to put out there that I do think that is really important, because that was a big black hole that I had, that I was vulnerable. That made me more vulnerable because I did not necessarily have a lot of skills when it came to finances, my finances, trying to understand what I was going to need for the future. Again, I don't like finances. I hate talking about it. So it was one of these things I just put my head in the sand and, everything will turn out all right. Because I always said, I'm just going to get married again. I'm going to get married to somebody who's financially stable and we're going to be fine and we'll be okay. That was another thing that put me in this situation, is having that belief to not rely on myself, but to always be looking like, I need to get married again. I need to find this man. I've got to find him. I've got to find him. And then the last thing I'd like to say to that too is, I've been married for 26 years. And even before I got married, I had a couple of, relationships, boyfriends, this kind of a thing. But it had been 26 years. And so going through online dating, as well, was just a whole new area for me. And I was vulnerable. I was self-conscious, very self-conscious, and my sense of self, my pride was hit. I lost my family, which I never wanted to do. That was never my plan. I stayed as long as I possibly could.
Like most women.
Yeah. And so my self-esteem was not where it needed to be. And so here this man comes, and then, sure enough, say all those things again, Liz. Wow. was that ever wonderful. And look how successful I am. I'm in online dating and I've already met my king, my Prince Charming. I mean, it was like, look at me, everybody. I did it. I have this wonderful man. And of course, it wasn't that situation. But I'm just explaining that those are all the loops that they get into. And, when I look back at what happened to me and what was said to me, I imagine in their syndicate, they have psychologists. They are really, really good. And so once they kind of get an idea of who you are, and they're all sharing it, obviously, it's not just this guy, they're feeding him like, okay, this is what you should do next. This is what you should say next. This is how you respond. Respond to her like this. Give her a little bit, then pull back a bit, and then give her a little bit more. So it's all very calculated. And I know that now.
Do you think it was more than one person that you were communicating with?
No, I don't, because maybe in the emails in the beginning, but I don't think so, because I spoke to him a lot on the phone, voice to voice phone calls. So, and he had a South African accent, and his whole story was that he was born and raised there.
Yeah.
So, that's why it made sense, and that he had dual citizenship and, this and that. So, no, his voice was very distinctive. And so I knew I was talking to him the whole time.
Linda, it's interesting that you brought up the financial literacy aspect.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I started doing this show. Because first of all, I wanted to dedicate it to women, because a lot of women go through a lot of hardship. Most women end up retiring in poverty.
Yeah.
We have a very disruptive work life. We are natural caregivers. So we stay at home for children. We stay at home for our parents. So a lot of women don't have that linear career. There's disruptions. We also make less money than men.
Mm-hmm.
And so on top of that, we live longer. And so we have all these aspects when it comes to financial literacy and understanding our finances. We're already behind the 8 ball to begin with. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you guys with the romance scams, because there are many people, men and women, that are out there that have experienced this and have lost their entire life savings.
Yes.
And, apparently, like, I've read a lot about it, and apparently people feel ashamed of what they've been through. And there really is no shame. You need to talk about it and move on with your life. And the other thing that I've read as well is that the scammer will come back for the second time. And so I think those are things that people need to understand. I think, I'm not even sure what else to ask you guys, because you've been so honest and you've put yourselves out there. Shelley, is there something that you want to talk about that you think is really important for somebody else that's watching the show, that to protect themselves, to learn, to understand going forward?
And I like what you said about people feeling shame, hiding, not expressing themselves, not seeking help, because that's the exact opposite of what my sister did. For someone who was so private all of our lives, we're in our 50s, all of our lives, she just kept up a wall so that we couldn't see, whatever was going on in her life. But now she's come full circle with this nightmare that we lived through. She's laid it all out for everyone to see. It's just the opposite of who she used to be. And I find that so amazing that she has been able to let everyone in, so to hopefully prevent this from happening to other people. And so I think my sister is the most courageous person I know, because typically targets of romance scams go into hiding. They don't want to tell anyone how much money they've lost. They'll just pretend that it never happened. In the meantime, they're hating themselves for it. So Linda has done a complete, she's completely healed from this through her own work on herself and by the people who love her. I'm telling you, Liz, our squad, myself, the other women in the squad that did the investigation, we love Linda so deeply. And I'm sure people out there have the same sorts of relationships. And to please let your loved ones talk to you. Let them be a part of your life. If you think this is happening, they'll help you, they'll guide you, they'll hold your hand, they'll be a shoulder. Because we weren't going to let this happen to Linda, even though we were at our wits' end. It was a happy ending in the end. And Linda and I are closer now than ever before. And I will say, over our lives, I've always been her caretaker. I'm her older sister. And there were times when I literally had to remove people from her life. It's all in the book. But
we all have to do that. We all have to go through things like that.
Exactly. But just to save her and to make sure she's happy and cared for, and she's my little sister, and I just didn't want anything bad to happen to her.
Of course not. Of course not. And it's you express that in the book. Like, you did everything you could to make sure that you protected her, and that's a wonderful thing. I mean, a lot of people don't have that, and you guys are very, very fortunate to have each other.
Well, I think that also makes this story unique, is because of the people who surround Linda and wanted to make sure she was okay. And the efforts that we put out there to rescue her from this guy. So that's what we really wanted to portray, that relationship, those relationships in this book.
Yeah, I think also, like, just going back to the financial side, and of course, I mean, Liz, believe me, I know I'm the luckiest person on the planet, and I know I got to live and survive this experience. And because of that, this is my way of paying it forward, that someone else doesn't end up in this situation. And also, yes, it does go to the healing. I have, people reaching out to me that I work with that have read the book now. And you can imagine it's not easy. One of our board members reached out, and I just finished your book. It was definitely not, I have to really go deep sometimes and swallow.
Well, because you're exposed, you're fully exposed.
Totally exposed. But again, it's I've done, my own reading and growing, as a person, to help myself heal from the situation, forgive myself, learn from it, and not let it, if anything, the opposite. I do not want this to hold me back from anything. I do want to say one thing, though, about going back to the finances and one of the red flags. So this man had me send him the money in cashier's checks, and the addresses that I would send it to were always different. And so he would always say, oh, well, I'm in Cuba, and because of the rules of the country, it's really difficult for me to get money. But again, that's going to be like a major red flag. When they're asking you the different banks, Wells Fargo, I mean, I sent money to Bank of America, all these different banks with different account numbers. That's definitely something that's not right. So again, it's going to be another red flag.
Do you have a final word of warning that you want to, a whole bunch of word of warnings that you'd like to put out there?
Yeah, I think my biggest, the one thing that I could say is meet somebody in person. Don't allow yourself to get involved in in an online, situation where it's only emails, texts, and phone calls. By the time you get all involved in that and everything, it's almost too late. So be guarded, ladies out there. Do have your guard on. Do have your warrior outfit on and in place when you're exploring the dating world. Do your research. Educate yourself about the scammers, who they are, what to look for, what to be aware of. Safety first. Financial safety, physical safety, emotional safety. Put yourself first and make sure that you're being safe in all of those areas. And it will go very, very far to finding a loving, wonderful, good human being and not end up in a situation like this.
Those are amazing last words. I don't even think we can add anything else to it. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm so happy that I found you on Twitter, Shelley. I'm so happy.
Yay for Twitter. I
know. I'm so happy that our Twitter, our tweets had crossed, and I feel really, really blessed to have met you, the two of you, and I'm honored that you shared your entire story on my show. Thank you so much, and I wish nothing but the best to both of you.
Thank you, Liz. Wonderful meeting you too.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Shelley Frost and Linda Young for joining me and sharing this incredible experience in hopes to help you from becoming a romance scam victim. As Linda says in the book, and I quote, "If you cannot meet in person, do not pursue it. If you cannot talk face to face on the phone or the computer, run for the hills. And if you're questioning the validity of an online relationship, reach out for help. Tell someone you trust that you think you might be in trouble. There is no shame in reaching out and asking for help." Now, if you like this episode, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have many other videos that would interest you, I'm very sure of that. And please read the disclaimer in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.